Looking at the last 2 years of NFL draft classes by the Commanders, and it's clear that they covet two things: competitors getting the opportunity to evaluate people more, and of course, athleticism. That and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome inside today's episode of Locked On Commanders. I am your host, David Harrison, here with you Monday through Friday. Your friend, your eyes, your ears on the ground, covering the Washington Commanders and doing so for WUSA9.com and also Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. I want to thank you for coming through today as we get the week started post NFL draft. So, of course, in this episode, we are talking about the NFL draft. We're going to review the class, the fits, and the projections for all the members of it. We're going to talk about UDFAs and the remaining needs for the Washington Commanders roster coming out of the selection meeting. Everydayers, those of you who come through every single day, a special thank you to you for coming through again today. For everybody out there, if you're not already subscribed for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this episode, please take the time to do so right now. And if you're new to the program, welcome to the show. Locked On Commanders is a daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by the 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada draft pick of the week later in the show. I promise you, I can count. And I had a little Charles Barkley moment there in the beginning of the episode. Two things that the Washington Commanders covet when they're looking at draft picks, according to their last two drafts: competitors and athleticism. And the competitors show that they're competitors by giving the Washington Commanders an extra opportunity to scout them. That is essentially what I meant and what I was trying to get at there in our opening. But when you look at this Washington Commanders draft class and you look at the 2024 Washington Commanders draft class, right? Obviously, athleticism and the opportunity to gain even extra knowledge or just confirm knowledge of players is something that this staff clearly covets. So let's start off by going over the draft picks again. In case you missed it or you just need a refresher, first round pick, 29th overall, offensive tackle Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon. Second round pick, 61st overall, cornerback Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. Fourth round pick, 128th overall, wide receiver Jaylen Lane out of Virginia Tech. Sixth round pick, 205th overall, linebacker Kane Madrono out of UCLA. And seventh round pick, 245th overall, running back Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt out of Arizona. The number one class when ranked according to relative athletic scores, RAS. RAS scores measure the athleticism of every player dating back years, okay? And last year, 2024, the Washington Commanders had the most athletic draft class of all 32 NFL teams. This year, they once again have the most athletic class of all 32 teams. So clearly, that athleticism is something that the Washington Commanders clearly again are coveting, right? They want that athleticism. When you talk about the offensive linemen, they need to be able to move left and right. They need to be able to move to get to the second level. Corners, you want physical guys who can run, who can jump, who can do whatever they need to do. Receivers, same thing, the ability to stretch the field, but also take short gains and turn them into bigger gains. Linebackers, middle of the field patrolmen, you need to be able to crash the box, but also need to be able to stay back and defend at least to a relative degree. And then running backs, you want to go out there and find guys that can impact the game, whether it's being sluggers, juggernauts, guys that can pound the rock, or guys that can blow up for explosive runs. Whatever that is, you need those guys to be able to be impactful, but also the AllStar Games. And this is where that extra gear comes in. This is where that extra opportunity for the team to evaluate players and the extra opportunity for players to show just how competitive they really are. That is another part that is clearly showing up as something that the Commanders appreciate, that the Commanders take advantage of. And then I think you get a little bit of a boost. You know what I mean? Now, if you ask, Adam Peters, Lance Newmark, stuff like that, I don't think they're going to tell you it's like top on the checklist, right? But I think it's something that's not going to hurt you and actually might help you a little bit. When you look at the draft picks that the Washington Commanders have selected, all five this year attended either the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl. It's an all-star game. It's an extra opportunity. It's another game outside of the regular college football season or the bowl season or the college football playoff season, whatever it is for your school. It's an extra opportunity for you to go out there, one, compete against fellow potential draft picks, two, get access to NFL coaching for the first time, direct coaching for the first time, and three, it's an opportunity for teams, again, to get to know you a little bit better. Every player at each of these bowl games gets to meet with every single team in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? It could be a brief meeting, could be a long meeting, but whatever it is, you're going to get to meet. You're going to get to work again with NFL coaches, and I know they're all like competing, right? And don't get me wrong, like if I'm a coach for the Carolina Panthers, I'm not going to let the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers know that I really love this, cornerback, and I'm going to press my GM to go get him, and all these things. But outside of some of those nuances, these guys, they share notes, they talk, they converse. You know what I mean? Yeah, this guy had a really great week of practice. This dude showed up really prepared. This guy picked up the language and the playbook that we gave him really quickly. Like those types of things translate. So to get that opportunity in front of the NFL personnel, the game, to be quite honest with you, the Senior Bowl game, the Shrine Bowl game, not as important in the evaluation process. In fact, all scouts, no scouts attend the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl unless they're doing it for like networking opportunities. You know what I mean? A little bit of career progression. But as far as like the evaluation process is concerned, the game itself is not something that these scouts and decision makers take in. It's the practices, and it's how the guys show up, like I said, prepared, healthy. Are they fit? Like this guy's had a month off since his bowl game. Is he fat? Is he slow? Is he soft? You know what I mean? Or did he come in even stronger? And that's actually going to play into one of the evaluations of one of these draft picks. And I think that's one of the reasons the Commanders were so confident in picking him. So all five this year attended either the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl. 6 of the 9 picks last year attended either the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl. The only 3 that didn't, quarterback Jayden Daniels, had a pretty good reason, right, to not go out there and put his body on the line. Number 1, number 2 overall pick. I mean, pretty much everybody knew was going to be a top 5 pick at that point in time during the All-Star circuit. And, certainly you could say, well, go out there and cement yourself as the number 2. But, from 5 to 2, like there's money involved, but not as much as going from 2 to 5 to off the board because you suffered an injury, right? So clearly a reason there. Johnny Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois, Washington Commanders second-round draft pick. He didn't participate, but he also had foot surgery in January following college football season. So clearly you have a reason there. Jordan McGee out of Temple, linebacker, also didn't participate. Now, couldn't find a firm reason, but I know, potentially some injury there. It's those types of things. But I know he was at least on some of the watch lists for some of those bowl games, those All-Star games. So those are the only 3. Jayden Daniels, Johnny Newton, Jordan McGee. Outside of that, every other draft pick last year was a Senior Bowl attendee or a Shrine Bowl attendee. 11 of 14 draft picks that Adam Peters has made so far have attended an All-Star game. 79%. 2 years in a row, they have had the top athletic score of all 32 NFL teams. So if you want to see, and remember, Adam Peters told you, we're going to build this team through the draft. So what is the vision for this team? The vision is athletic competitors. And it's kind of a no duh, right? But we're not just talking about athletes as in there's 300 athletes eligible for the NFL draft every year. No, we're talking about athletes who are the athletes of all the athletes. We're not just talking about competitors, guys who want to put on the pads, strap on the helmet, and go out there and win games. We're talking about guys who are so competitive that second-round pick Trey Amos, who has a late first-round, early second-round grade, is going out there and putting it on the line saying, I'm your guy. I'm either going to solidify my stock with you or I'm going to potentially go out here and raise it. But I know I'm not going to lower it, so I'm going to go out here and I'm going to perform. Offensive tackle Josh Connerly Jr. I know there's 1 rep from the Senior Bowl making its way around. It's 1 rep. And I'm here to tell you right now, Michael Jordan has turned the ball over. Wayne Gretzky has missed a wide open shot in hockey. Tom Brady has thrown a pick 6, right? Like, okay, he had 1 bad rep. Now, Josh Connerly Jr. will actually tell you, and he did tell us in his introductory press conference, that Senior Bowl week actually wasn't even like his best week. It was a very up and down week for him, but he still ends up coming out with the Offensive Lineman of the Week award because of 1, of his ability, and 2, of his maturity and his ability to go through some of those reps. I mean, these guys see it like you get housed on a one-on-one rep and it goes viral. You know that you're going viral, but he still came out, did his job, put his head down, went to work, didn't let it bother him. Those kinds of things stand out and they matter to the guys, especially that are on the field and the guys that are putting their name on the people who are going on the field. So when you look at this Washington Commanders draft class, first and foremost, whether you agree with all of the picks or you would have taken this guy or you would have taken that guy, bottom line is what we know, what we can learn from the Washington Commanders, because a year from now, we're going to be having these same conversations. So when we come through here and we prioritize athleticism in our evaluations, like we did for a lot of these guys here this year, this is why we're doing it. A lot of these guys were on our boards. Now, we didn't get to our tackle, we didn't get to our linebacker, and we only got to our explosive back big boards, unfortunately. But Connerly Jr. was on our tackle big board working project. Kane Madrono, we actually talked about when we talked about Femi Oladejo. I think I butchered his first name out of UCLA. We talked about Kane. And Croskey-Merritt, not someone we ever talked about, but someone who I'd already watched a little bit in preparation for that future episode that unfortunately, because of poor planning on my part, we never got to. So Trey Amos, our number 2 perimeter corner on our big board. Wide receiver Jaylen Lane, number 7 explosive receiver on our big board. These guys are there for a reason. So when you're doing your research for future Commanders, keep those things in mind, because we certainly are here on Locked On Commanders. Now, that's what we've learned about the process. What do we know about these players? Let's dive a little bit deeper into each of these draft picks, their fits, their depth chart projections, coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that today thanks in part to our friends over at Game Time. There is nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game, an NFL playoff game, I'm assuming a Major League Baseball playoff game. Never attended one personally. A hockey playoff game. Playoffs are just different, right? NBA playoff games are different than regular NBA games. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment, it just feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting, because Game Time makes it fast and easy for you to find playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as it gets closer to tip-off, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Again, those last-minute deals save you up to 60% off of buying last-minute tickets for sports, and then, of course, concerts, comedy, theater, and even more. And if you toggle in the all-in pricing feature on the app, you get no surprises when you get to checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for your $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Continuing now, today's episode of Locked On Commanders, we are diving into the complete Washington Commanders 2025 NFL draft class. And here now we're going to go through the fits and the depth chart projections for each of these players. Again, we went through the process and you're just seeing all of these things. And that's all you can ask for. I think as a media member, even as a fan, that's really all you can ask for, is to understand your team's process, is to listen to the general manager, listen to the assistant GM, listen to the head coach, talk and understand that when they make these decisions, you can kind of correlate what they're doing to what they've said in the past. Because it means they're telling you the truth. Now, doesn't mean they're telling you everything, right? I remember specifically, I think it was Sam Fortier of the Washington Post, which would track, because Sam and I were kind of tracking the AllStar Games stuff, also tracking a lot of the RAS stuff during draft weekend. I'm pretty sure he's the one who asked Adam Peters, the NFL scouting combine, like, how much is athleticism going to weigh into your decisions on draft night the same way that it did in 2024? And the answer kind of danced around the topic, right? Didn't say no, didn't say yes. So again, they're not going to tell you everything, because if Adam Peters goes out here and says, oh yeah, we're looking to have the most athletic class in the NFL draft, well, then your opposing GMs are going to sit on the board and say, hey, look, would they be interested in Jaylen Lane? Well, this dude's RAS score is through the roof. He's one of the most athletic receivers in the NFL draft. So yeah, potentially they're going to be interested in him. That's why you get traded up in front of all those things. Now, at the same time, Adam Peters knows the business. And if we're noticing 2 years in a row, athletic scores through the roof, 2 years in a row, all-star attendance through the roof, other GMs are too, and they're going to know that. So who knows? Maybe next year we're going to do all these RAS scores, we're going to do all these all-star games, and none of them will have gone to the Senior Bowl. Got to throw a curveball there every once in a while. We'll see how it goes. But I think Adam Peters is more likely to stay true to his process than anything and worry about the rest when you need to worry about it. So let's talk about these players, right? First round pick, offensive lineman Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon. Where does he fit in with what the Washington Commanders want to do? And of course, you're going to hear this word throughout a lot of these evaluations: athletic offensive lineman, 7th best athleticism score at the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine. So I'm not just going to tell you that they're athletic, because no dub. We're going to tell you where they are athletically and how they are athletically, right? Fastest 10-yard split of all offensive linemen at the NFL Scouting Combine. Biggest game on his tape: no sacks, No tackles for losses surrendered to Abdul Carter in the Big Ten championship game where Oregon won the Big Ten title. John Duran of WSA 9 had a one-on-one interview with Josh Connerly after he arrived after being selected. If you haven't seen it or you haven't read it, go to WSA9.com, find that article from John or find the video from John. It's a great interview. I got to be there. I wasn't in the interview, but I got to be in the room as they did it and meet Josh a little bit, a little bit of one-on-one time with the first-round pick. Good dude. You're going to love cheering for him if everything pans out for him as a first-round pick. But great game against Abdul Carter when you turn on the tape, right? Good mover in the open field, takes good angles to get those to those second and third level blockers. Exactly the type of fit that you would want for the Washington Commanders. The projection currently, I'm going to slot him in as the starting right tackle. Now, what I believe is going to happen is similar to what happened with Brandon Coleman and Cornelius Lucas on the left side last year. I think you're going to get some, and I think it's probably going to be Andrew Wiley. I think you're going to get some Andrew Wiley first-team reps, some Josh Connerly Jr. first-team reps, and I think that you're going to kind of swap there. I think Brandon Coleman certainly might get some right tackle reps too, right? Like, I don't want to just limit it to those two guys, but I think you're going to see a little bit of a situation just like you do with Brandon Coleman, where he's not just going to be out there from day one, doing it up and just never leave. He's going to rotate a little bit with a veteran, with a guy with more experience, and then I think eventually he will become that full-time starting right tackle. And I do think it'll go a little bit faster because I think the learning curve will be a little bit shorter. I think his ability to get up to speed is going to be a little bit faster as well. So that's where I project Josh Connerly Jr. to sit right now. Haven't seen him at rookie camp yet. That's coming up, so that could always change. But as of right now, that's just kind of where I see things going with him. Second round pick, cornerback Trey Amos, Ole Miss, one of the biggest steals in this draft. I say one of because there's definitely a guy that I think is a little bit more of a value pick just relative to where he was picked versus where he maybe should have gone. But Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, another, again, athletic player, 17th most athletic corner of this class, according to NFL Analytics. Press man corner who plays well in zone as well, though not as aggressive in zone as he is in man, right? But he's good in the short area of the field as well. He's going to help defend those quick routes. Played quarterback and ran track in high school, and I'm not trying to say that you should expect some wildcat, quarterback play from Trey Amos, but just giving you that background, he does have a little bit at least of a quarterback background. I know how intensive it really is and how competitive his league was and all that stuff, but shout out to the beast, Dane Brugler of The Athletic, his draft guide, The Beast. I read that there, so really good tidbit of information. But, DBs who see the field like a quarterback, a lot of times they end up being pretty stinking good, right? Mikey Sanders, still former wide receiver, sees the field, sees the game like a receiver does. So as a DB, he kind of knows what they're going through, right? Trey Amos played 3 years for Louisiana, transferred to Alabama for 1 year under Nick Saban. When Saban retired, some of that staff went to Ole Miss. Trey Amos followed them to Ole Miss, followed coaches from Alabama to Ole Miss. So he played for 2 schemes, 2 staffs, 3 teams, progress and positive play in each stop. So you love to see that kind of thing out of a prospect. The projection here, I'm gonna go for it. You know what I mean? This is just what I feel, right? I think he's gonna be your starting outside cornerback opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. I just do. I think he's probably gonna start training camp in the preseason behind like cornerback Jonathan Jones. But eventually, I think he's gonna take over that other wide DB spot, I should say, opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. I think he fits really well. I think he's got the length. I think he's got the talent. It's not a knock on Jones in any way, shape, or form, but I just think that, Trey Amos, again, he was one of my favorite guys, right? Number 2 cornerback on our big board for a reason, and really would have been our number 1 guy if it wasn't for Will Johnson and just the massive projection that he had. We talked about that in the big board episode, but I think eventually he takes over as our top wide corner. I don't know why I keep saying wide out, but wide corner opposite of Marshawn Lattimore as Mikey Sanders still moves back inside. So those are our first 2 picks, days 1, day 2. We'll come back with all the day 3 picks, talk about UDFAs and remaining needs as we wrap today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that today thanks in part to our friends over at Nissan. The Armada pick of the week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. This week, we're highlighting the top pick from the Washington Commanders NFL draft, the one selection that truly stood out, the guy who showcased the strength and power to push the Commanders forward as we look ahead to next season. We haven't got to talk about him yet, but guys, it is running back Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt out of Arizona. by way of New Mexico. Guys, insiders, I'm telling you, we're going to go in order for the draft for the video. We are going to go in order just because I think it's just the right way to do it. But I'm telling you right now, running back Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt is my favorite film study to get you. I cannot wait to do this film study with you. So if you're not an insider, you need to become an insider, because I can't share you clips here on the show. There's licensing laws that we follow here at the network. I'm telling you right now, I am just pumped to do that film study. Anyway, when it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer. That's exactly what I think that Croskey-Merritt can do here in Washington. It is clear that our top pick of the draft is here and ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of the outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Commanders, getting so excited about the prospects there that I almost forgot we were in an ad read for a minute. So I apologize if that went just a little bit long. But shout out to our friends over at Nissan, because they got me going, man. They got the juices flowing. That's exactly what we're trying to do here, right? Day 3, Washington Commanders draft picks. It all started off in the 4th round. Wide receiver Jaylen Lane out of Virginia Tech. And if you remember one of our pre-draft mailbag episodes, we had a Va-Tech student come through and ask about Va-Tech players, right? And Jaylen Lane was certainly one of those players, certainly a guy that was high on our board, seventh explosive receiver on our board coming into this NFL draft. So to get a guy that's in your top 7 of anything in the 4th round is obviously a win. The fit here, 90 athleticism score at the NFL Combine, 90. Ran a 4.34 40 at 5'10", has return ability. I look at him as kind of a step down from Jamison Crowder, only a step down, because Jamison is that vet. He's that wily vet, man, knows the game, knows it inside and out. I mean, there's a reason that he was injured for as long as he was, and then boom, as soon as he comes back in, he and Jaden have a rapport. He's there. He's trusted, right? There's a reason for that. So it's not a talent thing necessarily, because I do think that Jaylen Lane has a higher ceiling than Jamison Crowder had, right, in his career. So coming in, again, I don't think he's going to be as productive, as good, I should say, as Jamison Crowder, but he's a rookie. Give him some time to grow into it. Did have some drop and muffed punt issues while at Va-Tech, but those things are technique-based, right? And by and large, they can be fixed by technique things, right? I'm not a special teams coordinator, not a receivers coach, but I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, not an ad, and I've talked a lot to Bobby Ingram and other receivers, and actually I've done a lot of studying on receivers. I've got some education in receivers anyway. It can be fixed. These things can be fixed. I do believe in, and as long as Jaylen Lane comes in with that learners, educated student attitude, I think it can be fixed. Offensively, smaller than Deebo Samuel, right? But he's about a Deebo Samuel type. He's about 25 pounds smaller coming into the league than Deebo was when he came in the league. So lighter than Deebo. Not as physical, right? But in kind of an offense that likes to get the ball to playmakers in space. He can kind of have that same type of short area screen game type of impact. I mean, just imagine Deebo on one side, Jaylen Lane on the other side. Good luck to you. Good luck to you, defense coordinators. The screen possibility is always both ways. I haven't envisioned a play where they fake it to one side, they rush, they move the offensive line, they kick the line out like they're going that way, fake it to that side, come back to the other side behind, hopefully what is a flowing defense going the other direction. I mean, there's just all kinds of creative things you can do with these two type of receivers. You got quick slants, you got all kinds of stuff. And look, Jaylen Lane does have some deep ball ability, only used sparingly for that at Va-Tech, but certainly there is some potential there as well. The projection on the depth chart, I think likely he's probably going to be listed behind Noah Brown, right? So I think he'll be listed, quote unquote, as like the 4th receiver, or, the teams will have 2 outside receivers and a slot receivers. So it's kind of tricky to say where he's going to sit on the depth chart, but I think ultimately, I think he's going to end up getting on the field before Luke McCaffrey. I think functionally, all of these receivers are going to have packages, right? Luke is a big slot. He's played some outside last year as well. So there's going to be packages for him. There's going to be packages for Lane. There's going to be packages where it's Deebo and Lane, right? So there's just going to be packages. So the receiver group, I wouldn't get too crazy about trying to like pigeonhole someone into a specific spot, but I could see Lane eventually becoming 3rd in receptions on this team as a receiver. Not overall, like Zach Ertz, I think, as long as he's healthy, he's going to be up there, stuff like that. But I think as receivers go, Terry, Deebo, I could see Lane challenging Noah Brown for that 3rd highest receiver output as far as receptions go. Moving on to the 6th round, linebacker Kane Madrono out of UCLA, someone we talked to when Adam Peters and really the entire staff went to Los Angeles for the UCLA Pro Day. Oluwafemi Oladejo was a big focus For a lot of people, I liked him. A lot of you liked him for good reason. I think he's a really good player. He's going to be really good in the NFL. But linebacker Kane Madrono was also someone that we talked about because of leadership, because of maturity. Ken Norton Jr. vouched for this guy. Like, at the end of the day, I know some Commanders fans weren't like all that stoked about it, but I'll tell you right now, Ken Norton Jr. vouched for this guy. That's enough for me, man. Like, that's enough. That's all I need. Sixth best linebacker in athleticism score at the combine, 4.46 40 time, almost half a second faster than Frankie Louvu was coming out of school, but big enough and physical enough to play big nickel, star position, whatever you want to call it, depending on your defense. Not a direct Jeremy Chin comp, but could be used somewhat similarly. The projection, I think, is a special team stud, contender for rotational defensive snaps is where I'm going to put him entering rookie minicamp. I think Will Harris is going to be your starting strong safety. Quan Martin, the starting free safety. But again, I think those terms you just have two safeties. I think those terms are kind of interchangeable. Not that those indicators matter all that much. But instead of Harris dropping down the way Chin did in times, I think this is where a guy like Madrono could come in and compete for snaps. Dominique Hampton is going to compete for those snaps. We got an undrafted guy coming in that could compete for that part of the roster as well. So there's certainly some options there, but I think Kane Madrono, certainly a good candidate to make this roster this year. And then finally, 7th round pick. Again, my favorite film study coming up for you guys. Running back Croskey-Merritt out of Arizona. Preparing this episode, I actually found myself losing track of time watching tape on him because I just the more I saw, the more I liked, man. And I liked him when we were getting our running back episode ready. But now that he's here, I get to watch much, much more. The fit, vision. I was talking to an insider earlier on Sunday, and he said, I love vision. Vision is great for running backs. This dude has got loads of it. And yeah, absolutely. He's got loads. He's great at seeing the field, processing it, not just seeing it, but knowing what to do with it. That's the second trick to this, right? It's one thing to see what a defender is doing or where a defender is going or where the gap is, right? And vision really isn't just seeing the gap. We'll explain in the film site. Trust me, you're going to see a lot of really cool stuff. But knowing what to do with it, man. Like, once you see it, what do you do with it, right? Sturdy back with faster feet than expected, moves well, not heavily involved in the passing game in New Mexico. But that's an offense that really didn't use their backs all that much as receivers anyway. 4.45 speed at his pro day, punishes defenders at the end of the run. That's something that I absolutely love. Contact balance, accelerates after contact, lost all but one game from his final year in college due to an eligibility issue. There was no discipline, no grade issues, nothing like that. It was an issue about how many games were played and all that stuff. So no character concerns there. Offensive player of the game at the Shrine Bowl, scored 2 touchdowns. We talk about these all-star games, the additional opportunity to evaluate a guy. The fact that the Shrine Bowl even invited him out there. First of all, kudos to the Shrine Bowl. But not only that, listen, remember what I said. This kid, Croskey-Merritt, he played one game. He played the very first game for Arizona against New Mexico State, his former team. That was it. It's the only game he played all year. So from that first game to the Shrine Bowl, he was not allowed to play any competitive football. He showed up to the Shrine Bowl in shape, prepared, balled the F out. Offensive player of the game, scored 2 touchdowns in a shutout for his side. I mean, like, you want to know what a pro is. A pro is a guy, there's many things, right? But part of it is a guy can go away for the offseason and come back in shape. This dude didn't play a single meaningful snap of football from the end of his first game to the Shrine Bowl, and he was the best player on offense out there. That is highly, highly impressive. So Croskey-Merritt, for a lot of reasons, one of my favorite dudes in this draft class. Let's get to the UDFAs. These are as confirmed as of right now, as of the time we planned out this episode. Guard Timothy McKay out of North Carolina State. No RAS score for him, 6'4", 312-pound lineman. He's got experience. He's athletic with some size. Again, athletic, right? D lineman Ricky Barber out of UCF. He's actually the least athletic of the group of rookies right now. 4.85 out of 10 RAS, 6'1", 296 pounds. Flashed some disruptive ability at UCF, so we'll see what he can do. Cornerback Carlin Vidgers out of Louisiana Monroe, 8 out of 10 RAS score. So again, athletic, 6'1", 188 pounds, 4.52 40. Long man corner, played well against big-time competition in Texas, right? Louisiana Monroe, not going to get a lot of big competition, but he did get some against Texas, held his own, did pretty well. Has the safety background as well. Special teams experience is going to help him out. Cornerback Fentrell Cypress, the second out of Florida State, 8.59 RAS score out of 10, 6 feet, 182 pounds, 4.43 40. Experienced corner, quick, a little bit slender, could be a problem. Doesn't literally look like a great tackler. Safety, Robert McDaniel. This guy is the UDFA I was talking about that I think, I'm not saying he's going to come in and compete necessarily to be a starter, but Jackson State safety, 8'8" out of 10, Raz, 6'2", 211 pounds, 4.55 40, strong safety type, best in the box, good in run support, solid, average in coverage. Basically the most Jeremy Chin-like guy on this roster right now. Safety Trey Rucker, Oklahoma State, no Raz score, 6 foot tall, 212 pounds, another strong safety type, just not as big. Cornerback Colin Schlee out of Virginia Tech, another Va-Tech guy, 9.82 Raz score out of 10, nearly a perfect 10, 6'3", 211 pounds, 4.53 40, athletic quarterback. First reported by Candy Waller, Bowie TV, and later confirmed by the team. Gabe Taylor, safety and brother of the late Sean Taylor, may he rest in peace, is a rookie minicamp invite. Not an undrafted free agent signing, but a rookie minicamp invite of the Commanders. Rookie minicamp begins May 9th, runs through May 11th. We will be out there May 9th. That is the only day open to the media. We are the media, so we will be there. UCLA running back / wide receiver / kick returner Keegan Jones, also a confirmed minicamp invite. That confirmed by his agent, Nate Litwin. And then finally, our remaining needs. Polled the insiders, collected the answers, processed the data. First remaining need, edge. Second remaining need, interior offensive line. Third remaining need, strong safety. And yes, that includes, we had some that voted edge, then edge, then edge. I got it. Edge, interior offensive line, strong safety. We'll be diving into those remaining needs and any other news that may come across before we record our next episode of Locked On Commanders. Until then, if you want to get in on our upcoming film studies, if you want to get in on the mailbag questions, we will have a mailbag come up in the middle of this week, post-draft, all those things. All you got to do is text me. To text me, all you have to do is become an insider. To become an insider, all you got to do is go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to do that and get involved in all the fun. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and news never stop. Host Kyle Crabb and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day, every dayers. Thank you, especially for coming through every single day. Everybody out there, until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and I will see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.